Hello everybody and welcome to Teldo Daily number 7, and as promised, today I'm going to be talking about my Soloqueue build. And for my build I use pistol, shield, healing turret, grenades, bombs and toolkit. And in this video I'm going to explain what exactly I use in this build, and I will give you a slight overview about how I think the build should be played. And tomorrow I'm going to be releasing another video where I show you a commentated solo queue match, and I will try to explain all my thought processes during that solo queue match so you can get more of an insight on how I play that build. So let's get started. For runes I use Nightmare, 6/6 Nightmare. Many people ask me why I run 6/6. Well, the fear proc on it is just really amazing. It helps you out a lot. Sometimes you get that fear proc when an enemy stuns you or something, or CCs you in some way, and then you can just prevent a lot of damage when he gets feared away during that time, and it happens really often. It's very useful. Sometimes you also get the fear proc when you fight for a node, and then you randomly fear the enemy off the node and you get like an extra tick, which can actually decide a win or a loss in a game. It's really useful and I love it. For sigils I use Geomancy and Smoldering. Smoldering for the extra burn duration, so you get a little bit more burn damage, and Geomancy is just a really fun sigil to use. Many people use the might stacking sigil, but I think that's boring to use, and I think the Geomancy sigil is also higher risk but also higher reward. So for it to work, you need to get close to your enemy, and then you will apply 3 stacks of bleeding around yourself when you switch to a kit. And it's just a very fun and active sigil to use, and I really enjoy using it, and I think it's also really good once you get used to it, but you have to get used to it first. And for the Amulet, I run Rabbit Amulet, and a few months ago I started using Settler's Jewel, and I think the stats from the Settler's Jewel just fit more than an extra Rabbit Jewel, because you don't need the extra precision from the Rabbit Amulet or Rabbit Jewel. I mean, you have enough crit already, and the extra toughness and healing power just helps a lot with the survivability, and I think it's pretty good. And as for traits, I run 30 in explosives, 30 in alchemy, and 10 in tools. Obviously you need 30 in explosives pretty much all the time whenever you run Grenade Kit, because Grenadier is the Grandmaster trait and you need that to make your grenades really effective. You throw one extra grenade, which is really good, and you have a longer range with it, so that's a must-have. Since I'm running bombs as well, you also need some points in explosives. Like obviously I need the bomb radius. It's really important. You make your bombs a lot longer, like a lot bigger range here. It's very important, or the bombs will just be useless. And I use Incendiary Powder, which makes a lot of your damage. It's actually a very big part of your damage. It only has 10 seconds cooldown, and whenever you crit, you apply a 5.5 seconds burn on your enemy, which is just really strong. That's like 3k extra damage, as you can see here, and well, it's just very, very good. I used to run 10 points in Firearms, but I put the 10 points from Firearms into Alchemy, and I'm going to explain to you in a second why. But, well, this is a normal trait distribution that most engineers use. 10 points in Tools for the swiftness, so you have more mobility, and 10 points in Alchemy at least, so you get the Vigor. Whenever you proc swiftness, you get Vigor as well. It got nerfed a lot, but still it's very good. It gives you so many more dodges, it's just very powerful, and it makes a lot of your survivability. And back then I used 20 points in Alchemy for Backpack Regenerator, because that Backpack Regenerator is very underestimated. It gives you so much more sustain. It doesn't sound that much, it's a 121 healing per second, but it's so much more. Like it's a lot throughout the whole fight. I mean, you keep it up all the time, and it stacks with other regeneration effects. And you just need to switch to a kit like every 5 seconds or so, and you keep it up all the time. And it's just very powerful. Like this tiny trait, when I discovered this, made the difference between winning against Ellies or losing against Ellies, because Elementalists were a big problem for me back then, in the meta back then, and in 1v1s they just out-sustained me and ranged me. But with that extra tiny bit of sustain, I actually managed to out-sustain them, which is just sick. It's so good. And yeah, I put 30 points in alchemy now because I run no stun breakers. As you can see, bombs, grenades, and toolkit. Some people run elixir S, but I like to run toolkit and protection injection. Every time when you get CC'd, you get 4 seconds of protection, and well, that just prevents a lot of damage. It's really good when you get stunned by thief or stunned by warrior nowadays, since those two are really common. So that's it for the trait distribution. I will be able to deal a lot of damage with that build. That's just how this build works. When you're close to an enemy, you can deal a lot of damage. Like, I can demonstrate this on this heavy golem. That's like my tiny burst. I just throw grenades on an enemy and proc my geomancy, and you can see I got my incendiary powder proc, and look at this, how much damage this actually is. It's just a lot. So when you're close to enemies, you will deal insane damage all the time. But one thing about this build, it's very easy to focus down. So in an actual fight, in a team fight, you just throw grenades from range all the time. You have your shield grenades and all of that stuff, and you just deal damage like that. And as you can see, the damage is still pretty good. It's just not as good if you can't lay down your bombs as well and use your geomancy all the time, but it's decent. So you try to stay on range until you notice that an enemy goes down. Usually you would try to save up your poison grenades, and as soon as an enemy goes down, you just try to run in, and then you throw the poison grenades on that enemy, and you can lay down some bombs as well, and you try to just deal as much damage to that downed enemy as possible. If necessary, you can use your shield 4 to knock enemies back to prevent them from resting and that kind of stuff. Poison is just very powerful when someone goes down, so either use poison dart volley or the poison grenades, if there is no poison on the target already. Like this, you can keep them down, and then as soon as you lay down the fire bomb and can keep the enemy down just a tiny bit longer and your conditions start ticking in, you will deal a lot of damage, and you will deal a lot of cleave damage. So enemies will have a hard time resting that target, and that's your job in a team fight basically. And also another thing, if allies go down, you can do the same thing. You can cleave down the enemies while they try to stomp, and you can go closer to your ally, and you can just stealth them with this combo. Smoke bomb and shield 4. That allows your ally to not be stomped for a while, and you can put more time into cleaving the enemies. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. You try to stay on range, you deal your damage. A problem with this build is that you can get avoided, like your damage can get avoided relatively easily. Like on moving targets, it's hard to hit your grenades because you have to predict them, they fly relatively slow. And so are your bombs, like you can't just force your enemies to stay in your bombs. So you can get kited easily. That's why you try to just stay on range, throw your shit onto the nodes, and try to cleave enemies down, and as soon as someone goes down, you go in. There's one thing that you can do. If you want to focus a target that is trying to move away, you can try to hit your magnet pole, and you can maybe throw down some shield grenades right after, and then hit a pry bar and try to burst enemies down like that. That works pretty well. If your team knows that you are going to pull someone, they can just try to burst that target with you. But yeah, that's what you do in teamfights. But the thing about this build, which makes it so good in solo queue compared to other engineer builds in my opinion, is that this build is really good in every situations. Usually engineers lack in teamfights, so with this build you're pretty good in teamfights, but you're still pretty good in 1v1s as well, so you can go pretty much anywhere on the map, and you can try to be effective. You can do some good 1v1s on side nodes, you can try to backcap enemies, you can try to support your allies. You just have a little bit of everything. It's a very hybrid build. Has a lot of damage and a lot of support, which I really like. And yeah, tomorrow I'm going to be showing you a solo queue match about this, and I will also be streaming today when this video comes out. It's the 5th of February, and tomorrow when the next video comes out, I will also be streaming around 5 PM CET on twitch.tv/Teldo with double O. So if you're interested and you want to see a little bit more about this build, you can tune in there, or maybe watch the VODs or something like that. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm very open for feedback again, and see you guys tomorrow.